guys, we are keeping it casual today. I have to cut 1,000,000 squares of fabric for a quilted dress that I'm going to make that I will be documenting, so stay tuned for that. But while I cut the squares, I'm going to answer all of your questions. All of these questions were submitted on Instagram and TikTok, so thank you guys for asking them. I was worried we wouldn't get any, but we got some good ones. And a lot of them are also like FAQs, like things that I get asked all the time. So I feel like this will be helpful. And I'm also gonna put timestamps in the description. So if you're looking for like a specific question that I get asked a lot, I'll kind of like put which ones I'm answering when, so you can jump ahead if you're looking for like one specific thing. Or you can just hang out with me. This is basically us chilling and hanging out. Okay, cool. We're gonna get started cutting, and as I'm cutting the fabrics, I'll like show you what they are and tell you where I got them also, because they're cute. And so I feel like I'm gonna get questions about it. So I'll tell you where I got these. Okay, the first fabric, I got a big load of fabrics like a few months ago from Modern Domestic, which is a sewing shop that I think they sell online, but they're also local to Portland, which is where I got them from. I have family up there, so when I was in Portland a few months ago, I did a haul at Modern Domestic and got a bunch. So a few of these will be from there, and I'll tag them in the description. But this fabric in particular is, the manufacturer is Ruby Star Society, and I freaking love them. They have the cutest stuff. So that's where this one is from. And will I cut it? I'm gonna answer question number 1. How did you begin sewing, and did anything prompt it? / second question that's related, what was the first ever piece you made, and do you still have it? Okay, so I know I've told this story before. If you've heard it before, sorry. I started sewing 10 years ago-ish. Gosh, longer ago than that. So when I was engaged to my now husband, for my birthday, he bought me a sewing machine because I had always, I had like told him that I'd always wanted to sew things, and I thought it would be like fun to sew clothes. But I never had really tried. Like, I feel like I took like home ec, you know, in like junior high, but we made like a pillowcase and I just didn't really care, which I think is normal. But I had mentioned to him that I would like to learn to sew sort of offhandedly, and he is a very good gift giver. He'll like take little nuggets of things and stow them away in his brain and then give you really good presents months later when you forgot about them. So for my birthday, he got me a sewing machine, and his mom, my mother-in-law, she sews. My mom sews a bit, you know, like she like knows how to sew, but we didn't really, like I said, I didn't really sew growing up. And so she showed me how to use the machine. We like picked a pattern. It was like this, so let's see, this was in 2013. Yeah, 2013. And it was a skirt pattern that was like knee length and like the most 2013 thing you've ever seen in your life. Like the fabric I picked, I think was like a chevron. Anyways, I didn't even really like it that much. I just didn't know what I was doing or what to pick. I got maybe a quarter of the way into the pattern before realizing it's not something that I really cared to finish. I stuck the sewing machine in my closet, and then like a year later, I was pregnant with my daughter. I wanted to sew her a baby blanket, partially just because that's what you do when you're pregnant, right? You like make baby blankets and stuff like that. And also my sister-in-law had made baby blankets for all of her babies, so she like showed me what fabrics to get and sort of how to make it and whatnot. So that was the first thing I ever made, to answer the second question. The first thing I ever made was my daughter's baby blanket, and it was a quilt just with like squares and backed with like that minky fabric, you know, and it was like rough. Like looking at it now, it was not well constructed, made with love, but it was not super nice. But I feel like it was fairly easy. I liked doing it. It was enjoyable. So then fast forward like another year. When my daughter was 6 months old, I had been a nanny before she was born. And then after she was born, the family who I had nannied for didn't need me anymore. Their daughter was going to preschool, so I wasn't working at the time. And I needed something both to, like something to do, like a hobby, and also a way to like burn off creative energy, because I'd been a pretty creative person all my life. Like in high school, I was like the art person. I was like a painter and whatever. Anyways, so when she was 6 months old, I decided to make more blankets. So literally I had sewn one blanket, and I decided that if I could make one, I could probably make other ones, and I'll put them on Etsy and see if anyone buys them, and if no one does, that's fine, and I'll move on. So I started selling blankets on Etsy. I'll see if I can dig up some pictures for you guys and put them on here. But I was making like quilts and blankets, which evolved into work clogs and bibs and just different baby stuff. That kind of led to like leggings, and then those like stretchy headbands. If you guys can picture like the 2015 era of baby clothes that were like, I don't know, there was like a whole vibe going on at the time with like baby clothes. So I made that stuff, and then that evolved into baby dresses. And at this point, all of these things I was making, I was just making them up. I had never used a pattern before. I didn't really I hadn't been trained on how to do these things, but I would just like for leggings, for example, I was like, well, I can find stretchy material and I can trace a pair of my baby's leggings and construct, like, guess how it's constructed, because leggings are super easy, right? It's like not that many seams, so like, how are these seams connected? And then I just kind of like make them up, and they worked and they fit. And I actually used to get the sizing right, because like I said, no one taught me how to do it. I wasn't trained. To get the sizing right, I went to Target and bought from size newborn up to 5T. I bought like t-shirts, onesies, leggings, pants of like one of each thing from like the clearance section, because we were also super poor at the time, and kind of like figured out what the measurements should be of baby clothes for all of the sizes, so that I could like get my sizing right. So anyways, that's how I started sewing. I sort of fell into it and then made it into a business before I ever really learned how to do it or sewed anything for myself. At that time, I had never, like, throughout my whole business, I did my business for 5 years. It was called Pine and Honey Handmade. And if you follow me on Instagram, I have kept my Instagram account. I just changed my name. So you can like scroll back on Instagram and see like the baby stuff I used to make. Anyways, so I did it for 5 years and it was really fun. I loved doing it, but it was also like so overwhelming because you get all these orders, but then you have to make the clothes. And like, if you have to make like 20 baby dresses, that's like so much work. So anyways, it was really fun, but it burnt me out a lot. And I was like designing everything and making everything myself. And I was also like, I had a website, I created the website, I did all the product photography, I did all the fulfillment, I was shipping everything myself, I did all the social media and the marketing and all of the things, and it was just a lot. So I did it for 5 years, and then I decided that I needed to take a step away from that. Moving on to the next fabric. This one is also Ruby Star Society. You can see on the selvage. And I got this one also from Modern Domestic when I went up in Portland. So that's where this one's from, but I'm sure you can find it other places too. Okay, so to cap off the how did I learn how to sew story, after I closed my shop down is the first time that I ever made clothes for myself. So that was like, gosh, how long ago was that? That was 2020. Yeah, it was like summer of 2020 was when I closed my shop. I kind of had the same approach of making clothes for myself. So I would take an item of clothing that I already owned and liked, but would wish that I could tweak a couple things about it. Like, oh, I really like this dress, but I wish it was like a little bit longer and had pockets. Or I really like these pants, but I wish they were like baggier or whatever. And then I would like trace them and make a new pattern piece from them, because that's how I made all of my baby clothes, is I would like trace the t-shirts and the onesies and then create bodice blocks and like all these things. So that's how I started sewing for myself, which is why like pattern making I feel like has come like a natural progression to me, because I've sort of been making patterns for myself for quite a while. Okay, next question actually goes along really well with that. So there's 3 that are very similar. Any tips on how to start self-drafting? I know nothing about the process. How to make a pattern from existing clothes, how to make room for seam allowances, and how do you design your own sleeve pattern? The curves are confusing. Great questions. First off, tips on self-drafting. I personally feel like the route to go is just to not get in the weeds too much of like the technical right way to do it. Like, you don't need to be in fashion school or have any sort of like, I don't know, formal training. I mean, that's great if you want to learn like the official way to do it. That's awesome. But honestly, tracing existing clothes is like where I would start. Like, take something simple like a t-shirt or leggings or something like that and go from there. Or even like if you wanted to make like a dress, I feel like you could take a t-shirt and trace the vibe of it, and then you can tell from there, right? Like, okay, I want to make a dress with this type of bodice, and so you like trace the shirt to start, and then you look at what you traced, and then you say, okay, but I want my dress to be like roomier, so I want it wider, so you just extend the bodice, right? Or like, I want the neckline to come down lower, so just draw the neckline lower. Like, it's literally just critical thinking of like, what do I want? Like, let's get a starting shape that I know fits my body pretty well, and then how do I want to change it and adjust it to be like a specific pattern that I drafted. Does that make sense? I know that I'm sort of in the outlier on this. Well, maybe I'm not. I feel like I am a bit, because the way that I learned to sew is like not probably most people's experience. And then as for how to find seam allowances, because that was the other question, let's use 1/2 inch, for example. I feel like that's a good round number. But if you say, I'm just gonna add 1/2 inch seam allowance, you can get in the weeds and be like, well, the sleeve is gonna be a slightly less and this is gonna be more. But just for the sake of this example, if you're gonna add 1/2 inch seam allowance to something, if you trace that t-shirt out, like I had said, and then just think about like, well, there's a seam at the shoulder, so I'm gonna add 1/2 inch to the shoulder, or there's a seam at the side, so I'm gonna add 1/2 inch to the side. Like I said, it's just kind of like thinking through how it's gonna be constructed and then doing those things. And probably a lot of trial and error, times where you didn't think through a certain seam allowance or whatever, and then you just try again. And I feel like that's fine. The things that I used to make, even the things I was selling, like leggings and dresses and things like that, of baby things, I look back on them now and there's like so many things I would do differently just from experience. So obviously you can't expect to have a perfect result the first time you self-draft something, but at the same time, don't stress about it. Like, I actually watched this TikTok like an hour ago of this girl who was giving advice. Like, she was answering, somebody had asked like tips on starting to sew, and all of her things, she was like really nice, by the way, but all of her like tips were very, I don't know, like negative a bit, or just kind of like scary. Like, she was like, definitely don't sew with this type of fabric, definitely don't start with these kinds of patterns, don't do this, definitely learn this. If that was my first experience with someone giving me advice on sewing, I would like not want to try it, because it would seem like, oh crap, I'm gonna like mess up, or it's gonna like be really hard, and it just isn't. Like, I don't know, my opinion is that at the end of the day, we're just sticking stuff together with thread, sticking fabric together with thread, and it's not really that deep. Is that bad? Maybe that's bad, but I don't know, that's my opinion. I feel like we don't need to take it too seriously, and if you want to like learn super great technical things, that's awesome, and maybe that's something to try down the line, but don't feel like you need to do things a certain way or start on certain projects or whatever. Just release yourself from your expectations. That's my advice. Okay, the next question, there's 3 that are related. So how did you learn to pattern draft? How do you make online patterns? Or how did you learn to make online patterns? What program do you make digital patterns? Okay, so this is a good progression, because obviously the patterns that I make now to sell are not like traced from a t-shirt, right? They're more exact than that. Like I said, had been drafting things for myself for a few years, and then last summer I'd always wanted, because people say like, oh, you should make patterns for that, you should make patterns for like your kids' clothes you used to make, whatever, but I didn't. They're all just like literally traced on like printer paper. It's not like a product I could have sold. So I'd always wanted to draft my own patterns in that way, but I just did not know where to start or how to do that. And I knew, like, with my experience and the way that I kind of learned and like developed my own business, I knew that I could figure it out. Like, I had the confidence that if I just buckled down and figured it out, I would be able to do it. I just didn't know where to start. Like, I just needed a direction to point myself into. As I was thinking about all this stuff last summer, because I had sort of taken a break from sewing, I had gotten back into it last summer when I started posting things on TikTok, and I was like, I had the juice, you know what I mean? Like the motivation to do more sewing. I had just seen a reel from a friend of mine who I follow, who makes sewing patterns. I knew of her, but I wasn't like super friendly with her yet. I followed her, and she just made a reel like that day as I was thinking about this, about how she used to have a made to order sewing business, and then she transferred to sewing patterns and how much she loved it. So I was like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to her. How did she do this? And so I reached out to her, I DM'd her. Her name is Jessica from Jessie Lou's Closet, who I will tag in the description so you guys can go check her out. But I reached out to her, I DM'd her on Instagram, and she like immediately started sending me voice messages back and was giving me like all of this advice, like really great advice of how she learned to pattern draft. And so she has been like my helper and mentor on my journey so far. Quick pause for a fabric change. This one, oh my gosh, this one's also Ruby Star Society. Guys, I have a type, okay? This one I got from Bolt Fabric that is also in Portland. I shop there in person, but they do sell online. Can you tell I really like shopping for fabric in person? There's a few fabric questions in here. I'm sure we'll talk about that in just a minute. But yeah, Bolt Fabric, I'll tag them in the description as well. Okay, sorry for the interruption. So talked to Jess, reached out to her. She told me to reach out to Victoria from Confident Pattern Making, who I will also put in the description. It's gonna be a long description with lots of recommendations. But Victoria is an actual like professional pattern maker. She went to like fashion design school, I think in Rome. Like she's legit. And she actually runs a like school basically for people who want to learn how to make patterns. And she has a bunch of different kinds of courses, and Jess actually works with her now. They both run Confident Pattern Making, and they have lots of different kinds of courses, and I know they're doing there's a lot more in the works as well. So it used to just be one course altogether, and they've like kind of broken it up into more bits. I'm currently actually taking the Confident Pattern Making course, and the two that I know of for sure, there's Confident Pattern Making and Confident Grading. Confident Pattern Making is like everything you need to know to draft patterns digitally in Illustrator, which is where I draft all my patterns, is Adobe Illustrator. And it is like a legitimate course. Like this is not like a pamphlet of information. It's like you have assignments in the loosest terms, because it's more just like guided exercises for you to do to like learn everything, right? But they're like assignments. And then they do calls, like Zoom calls twice a week with like the people who run the course, so that as you're going through the assignments, you can like ask questions to them. They're like office hours. You can ask questions and like talk amongst all the other people in the course. It's like, I truly cannot recommend it enough. It is so well thought through and so like comprehensive. That's the word I'm trying to think of. Anyways, it's amazing. I know that it's not like for everybody, because it truly is, like I said, it really is like an actual course, like something that I would expect from like a college course or like a fashion school course, with the added bonus of like you don't have to enroll in school to take it. But so anyways, I'll link all that down below. But for my first, like I said, I'm taking it right now, but I've released 3 patterns already beforehand, because I drafted, like I can draft patterns for me, right? So I've been doing my version of drafting for me, and then Jess has been my collaborator on my patterns, and she takes like the piece of paper pattern that I created and puts it into Illustrator, and she has graded it for all the sizes, which is the other course that I'm taking right after this one, is learning how to grade the pattern for all of the sizes, because I only know how to draft for my size right now. So I'm going to learn that, but she has been grading all my patterns for all the sizes, and then it's kind of like a tag team thing. And then she gives me back the files, and then I like write the instructions and do the videos and whatever. So currently I am learning all of the fine skills of drafting, which the third pattern, my first 2 patterns I drafted on paper and scanned them into Illustrator for Jess. My third pattern that I just did, which is this one, my tie top, I drafted it myself in Illustrator. That was the first one that I did 100% drafted on my own, which felt really good because it was really fun. I love drafting in Illustrator as well. Okay, hopefully that answers all your pattern drafting questions. Next question is staple items for sewing your own wardrobe, which I really love this question because I feel like it's hard sometimes to decide what you're going to sew because you want to make sure that you're getting like a lot of wear out of it and that it's not going to be like, oh, I made this cute thing and then it just sits in your closet forever, which I have had those things happen to me. So for me personally, I feel like a staple thing to sew is a nice, like comfortable pair of pants, because especially like elastic waistband pants are super easy to sew and they're just cute. So I feel like elastic waist pants are easy and they're something that like I personally wear every day because I freaking hate jeans. So yeah, that's a good one. I don't sew a lot of knits. If you like to sew knits or want to try sewing knits, you could sew like t-shirts and things like that. I also feel like in the summer, like dresses are a great staple because dresses are honestly really easy too. And there's a lot of like very simple dress patterns. So I feel like summer dresses would be a great staple of something to sew. And kind of going along with that, there's also a lot of like jumpsuit patterns that are really good. The Zadie jumpsuit comes to mind as one. I'll link some patterns that are good like staple ones as well. Okay, fabric change. This one I also got from Bolt Fabric, right? No. This one I got from Modern Domestic. This one's a really nice one for, like I specifically got it for like patchwork projects. So this is gonna be one of the squares of patchwork for my dress. Okay, accompanying question. If you are sewing for the first time, what would you sew first? So I personally have an inflated sense of things that I can accomplish. Like I had said sort of about pattern making, like I knew that I would be able to figure it out, so I just need to like jump in and figure it out. So I feel like I would pick elastic waistband pants because they're like easy enough, they're like simple, and I also know that I would actually like wear them. Like I don't want to make like a pot holder. I'm not really gonna be excited about that. Or like the very first pattern I tried making, which was that skirt, like I wasn't even that excited about it. I thought it would just like, I don't know, I thought it would be easy enough and it's like, I don't know, guess I'll make a skirt. But I wasn't like motivated to actually finish it because I wasn't really that excited about it. So word to the wise, pick projects that you actually are interested in doing, which is probably a no-brainer. So if it was me, I would make elastic waistband pants. And if it's the first thing you've ever made, yeah, it could be slightly ambitious, but like you're gonna figure it out, especially if you pick a pattern that has really good like beginner-friendly instructions, which I always try to do. I try my best to have like, as I'm writing my instructions, think about people who haven't really sewn much before. And if there's a video tutorial that goes with it, I just feel like you'll be fine. Unless you're like super, super nervous, then maybe don't do that. And that's okay. Everyone to their own comfort level. So then follow-up advice, if you're not me and aren't delusional, healthy dose of delusion. I feel like I would do something like, I don't know, like a pillowcase is really easy. If you're excited about a pillowcase, fantastic, go ahead and do it. Or even like a Kindle cover or like a laptop cover, things like that would be like super easy. So for those, I think you're better off with like a YouTube tutorial than you would be with like a pattern probably. I know I'm very visual, so I feel like that would be a helpful thing to be able to follow. And there are a lot of free YouTube tutorials for things like that. And I'm planning to make projects like that, tutorials for projects like that. I just need to work through my backlog of 1 million projects that I want to do. So eventually I'll have those types of things. Okay, next question. Okay, we're getting into fabric. I'm so excited. Can you tell? I love fabric. So what I would do if my friend came to me and was like, I want to get into sewing, I don't know anything about fabric, where do I start? Understandable question. I personally would take them to a fabric store, like an in-person fabric store, not online. And even if we don't buy anything there, I would walk around with them and we would like just feel the different fabrics, read the bolts. I don't have any bolts here, but on like the end of bolts of fabrics, there are the details of like what kind of fabric, like what is it made of, what's the fabric width, because all fabrics have different widths and weights and There's like information on the bolt that's really helpful. Usually people at fabric stores can be helpful depending on where you shop. So if you're trying to just figure out like, how the heck do I even know what fabric to buy? I feel like you need to head into a fabric store and maybe have your only goal be discovery, exploration. I'm just gonna like feel some things and get a gauge on what different fabrics are like. And then after you've done that, then I feel like you're good to start a project with like a basic cotton. Like all of these fabrics that I'm cutting right now, I was gonna reach for this one. This is literally the only one that's not just like a quilting cotton. This is a canvas actually. But like this fabric is just like a general quilting cotton. It's pretty like crisp, it's not like flowy, the makeup of it is very simple, and a lot of fabric stores have a lot of quilting cotton because there are a lot of quilters. If you're really stumped on fabric, I think that workers like at fabric stores, that's what they're there for, and they freaking love talking about fabric, understandably, because it's the best thing to talk about. Next question is favorite type of fabric to sew with. So my favorite fabric to sew with is a linen viscose mix. I'm actually wearing linen viscose mix. So this is like a white linen with viscose in it. I think it's like 55% linen, 45% viscose. So it has like that linen-y feel to it, but it also is drapey and not too wrinkly. Like I washed this and didn't like iron it or anything because who has time for that? And it's still like has a nice shape. It's not super wrinkly. I've made lots of things with linen viscose blends, dresses, shirts, pants. My favorite pair of pants is a black linen viscose mix, and it's the best. They're so comfy and they don't wrinkle, which is great. What are your favorite places to buy fabric? Okay, as you can tell from the fabrics I've shown you already, I really do like shopping for fabric in person, and a lot of the fabric stores that I shop with have in-person stores and also sell online. So in Portland, Bolt and Modern Domestic both sell online and in person. There's a fabric store that's actually local to me called Fluid Plus Drape, and I like know the owner. She's amazing. You can like DM her and she'll be super helpful. So I'll link Fluid Plus Drape. I've gotten some good fabrics there, some in here which I'll get to. So Fluid Plus Drape is great. Blackbird is one that I really love. They're in Canada, so I've never been. In fact, I don't know if they have a storefront. They might not, so maybe it's just wishful thinking. But Blackbird is great. They have fabric and have started releasing some patterns as well. I've gotten a lot of stuff from Blackbird. They also do a good job. A lot of these ones do, but I try to look for online fabric stores that have good descriptions, and like sometimes they'll have like videos of how the fabric moves, and they'll give you like suggestions for like what types of patterns it would be good for. Blackbird does a really good job at that. So that's like very helpful when buying fabrics. The fabric store, they're in, oh gosh, I think it's Australia. It might be New Zealand. I know they're not the same thing. Don't be offended. I can't remember if it's Australia or New Zealand. I've bought from them online. All of the fabric I've gotten from them online is great. And then honestly, you can be a hater and that's fine, but I have gotten quite a few things just from Joann, mostly because until I heard about Fluid Plus Drape, which is local to me, I live in like a medium-ish size town, and so there's not like a ton of apparel fabric stores around. There's like some quilting shops, but it's like not the same thing. And so when you're in a pinch, sometimes you just need to go to Joann's. You can't wait for an online option. It's kind of harder to dig through some of their stuff because not all of their fabric is great. But you can find some gems there sometimes. In fact, this linen viscose blend is from Joann's, and like I get it in white and black, and I use it for a lot of things because it's great. Next question, have you ever thrifted fabric like curtains, tablecloths, bed sheets, and made clothing? Yes and no. Thrifting is a skill. It's a gift and a skill, and it's one that I don't possess. Like I am absolutely willing to admit that. Even like thrifting clothes for myself, I like walk into a thrift store and every creative bone in my body flees. I don't know what it is about it, but I have such a hard time visualizing like potential in thrifted stuff. And I know that's on me because there's so many people who are good at it. My sister is like a pro thrifter. She always has been. Like, we would go, our birthdays are really close to each other, so we would like go birthday shopping together, and she'd want to go to thrift stores, which I was like totally fine to go to them. And she would like find the greatest stuff ever, and I feel like I'd walk around like I'm blind. I couldn't find anything. Anyways, that's a tangent. But I have made some clothes, like upcycled some things from already made clothes. It's not like my forte, and the only things that I feel like I've really gotten into with that is like a dress that was like a bigger size than mine, and I just was able to like take it in some sort of way, which, two things, I know that that's not like the most creative thing ever to just like make a dress that's bigger than your size fit your size. It's like cool. And also I've heard the arguments slash feedback of like, don't take the good thrifted, like good things at the thrift store for the larger sizes and make them smaller for yourself, which I totally get that. So anyways, haven't done a ton of that. I know there are people who are really good at finding thrifted bed sheets and curtains and all of these things. I feel like I've never had luck. In fact, I feel like I do go every couple months to the thrift store thinking like, surely I'll find something, and I just never have any luck. If I ever do, I'm gonna shout it from the rooftops because I'm gonna feel like I won the freaking lottery, but so far, not much luck. All right, fabric change time. So this one, like I said, is actually canvas. Yeah, it's like a canvas, but it has like pretty good movement to it. It's not too stiff, which is why I'm using it for this patchwork. If it was too stiff, I wouldn't use it. But it's like a lime green canvas from Blackbird. And I was originally going to make a bag with it, but it's just been sitting in my stash for a couple months, and I feel like it would be a cute color for the patchwork dress. So we're gonna cut some squares from it. Sewing machine recommendations. Okay, so I'm gonna link below. I have a whole like Amazon situation set up with all of my supplies that I would recommend, and like the ones I use, like my rotary cutter, my straight edge, my cutting mat, my pin cushion, scissors, whatever. Things that I use all the time. I have them all linked on there, so hopefully that's at least partially helpful. And then I also have sewing machines linked on there, and I actually have two linked, and let me explain. So I've always sewn on Brother machines because the first machine that my husband bought me was a Brother, and at the time I think it was just like one of the least expensive ones on Amazon that still had like, it was, because there are some sewing machines that you can get that are like so simple, they're like for kids. But this one was like, it was a legitimate machine. It had like different stitches and feet and all the different things, but it was still like not very expensive. In fact, I think the one he first bought me was like maybe like $110, I think, and that was like 10 years ago. It was $110 10 years ago. And so that's really not that expensive, especially if you think about like how often you're going to use it. At least for me, all the time. But anyways, if you're nervous about starting, like buying the machinery, buying the stuff for it, like I think you could borrow like a machine from a friend or go to like a sewing class or something like that, so you can maybe get an idea of if it's something you even want to do before you buy your machine. So anyway, that was a tangent. Brother machines. I've always used Brothers. I had that same machine for years, like pretty much the whole time I was doing my shop. I used that same machine. I replaced it once because my husband dropped it coming, like he was like, we were unloading the car and I had taken it doesn't matter. We were unloading the car, the sewing machine was in the car. He like grabbed it out of the thing and it had like a case and he didn't, whatever. It dropped, the sewing machine dropped to the driveway and broke, which is understandable. No shade to him. So I replaced it with the same machine because, like I mentioned, we were poor and so we couldn't get a fancy machine, which is fine. And then a few years later, that replacement machine had broken for real because I was sewing like sometimes like 18-hour a day sewing for like weeks at a time. And so I was putting like heavy mileage on that machine and it was not equipped to do things like that. So it did break after a while. And then I went to a shop that was local to me at the time. We were living in Spokane at that time. And there was this great sewing machine or sewing shop there that had like, they were like repair people, but also had like used machines. And they were amazing. They like fixed my machine for free a couple times. I need to look up what they were called and recommend them if you live in Spokane. But anyways, I bought a slightly upgraded sewing machine there that was used, and I think it was like $400, which at the time I was just like, that's so much money, but also like this is my job. And I mean, that is a lot of money, right? Like $400 for a machine, even though it was my job, it just felt like it was so expensive. Anyways, that is the machine I still have, and it's a Brother 1043. I'll look it up for sure. But that is the machine that I still have. I've been using it for years. I really, really like it. It's like an upgrade from the one I had. It's pretty much the same thing, but has like a few extra features, and I think is like slightly more heavy duty, but it's been great. I really love Brother machines. So the two machines that I have tagged on my storefront, one of them is the newest version of my very first machine I had, which I think is like $150 now, or maybe $160. It's just like inflation, I think, it's raised its price a little bit over the last decade. And then I also have the new version of my current machine, because my current machine has been discontinued. They don't sell it anymore, but basically the same thing I've linked on my Amazon, and that one I think is like $280 or $250. Anyways, either one of those I would recommend. They're both like really, really easy to use for beginners. They have maybe the only thing I'd really recommend looking for if you are in the market for a machine is that it has like a few different stitches. Like you want it to have a straight stitch and like a zigzag stitch. I think almost all machines do. Zigzag stitch, other types of stitches, like a buttonhole foot and a buttonhole stitch is really good to have. Both of my machines that I've had have had those, and they're not that fancy. So yeah, if they have like multiple different kind of feet, a zipper foot, a buttonhole foot, a buttonhole stitch, all of that kind of stuff, I feel like look into that because those are helpful. But I think nowadays most machines come with that kind of thing. Okay, what are the benefits of a serger / overlock machine? Great follow-up question, because I also got a serger like a couple years into my business, and this was another thing that my husband bought me out of the blue, because I had mentioned, like, I was selling kids clothes at the time and I didn't have a serger, which I should explain what a serger even freaking is if you don't know. So a serger is not a sewing, it doesn't sew like straight stitches like a normal sewing machine does. It just like overlocks the edges. Look at any seam of, like, lift your shirt up and look at like the side seam, and that will have like, there's a stitch along the edge that looks like it's all kind of zigzagged up. It's like a special looking stitch. That is what a serger does. I know I've heard that there are serger feet that you can put on your normal sewing machine. So you could look into that, but a serger not only like overlocks the edges, but it also has a knife. So as you're going, it like trims off the edge. Do you like my, this is what it looks like. It trims off the edge and then it like overlocks the edge so that there's no fraying, which sounds like kind of a frivolous, not necessary expense, but I freaking love my serger. And I know they do other things too. I haven't explored all of the greatness of sergers, but anytime you're making apparel garments, you need to finish your edges somehow so that they don't fray, whether it's with a serger or a zigzag stitch or French seams or whatever. You need to finish your seams so that they don't unravel. And a serger is just like such like a clean, satisfying way to do that. So if you're sewing garments with any regularity at all, I feel like a serger is well worth it. I'm obsessed with my serger. Like I said, my husband bought me mine he surprised me with it on Christmas, because I was like, yeah, it would be a nice thing to have, but we were super poor. How many times can I mention? We were like college students and whatever. So that's the benefits of a serger. Next question is, do you wash your fabric before sewing? Okay, we're just like spilling all of our dirty secrets here, but I do. Now, historically, it's not something that I've prioritized a ton. I know you're supposed to, because your fabric is going to shrink when you wash it, at least a little bit. And if you don't wash it beforehand, then your garment will shrink after you make it. And logically, you don't want that. That doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't you wash it beforehand? Sometimes I'm just lazy, okay? And that's how I sew a lot of things. Again, when you teach yourself to sew and you teach yourself these things, like when I started out sewing, I didn't even iron anything because I was like, surely I don't need to iron my fabric. That's not necessary. It's very necessary. Like, not ironing before you make things, like ironing during construction. Like, you sew a seam and then it's like, okay, now iron that seam back. I would just like skip that because I'm like, why do I need to iron it? You do need to iron it. So I've learned my lesson on that type of thing. Sometimes I don't wash my fabric beforehand, but you should. Okay, rank your patterns from favorite to least favorite of your patterns. Okay, so I have 3 patterns out right now. In order of being released, I launched my Lane pants first, which I'm actually wearing my Lane pants right now. And then I launched my Ruby vest, and then the Sid tie top and dress that I'm also wearing. So this is a bit like ranking your children, except not, because I actually do feel like I have favorites. And I think they might be sort of surprising. So I'll say in order of popularity, the Sid tie top and dress, it's only been out a couple weeks now, but this one has been the most popular. The Ruby vest has been the 2nd most popular, and the Lanes have been the 3rd most popular. But that's also like the backwards order of when I released them. So it makes sense that they've like gotten more popular as time goes on. Anyways, but for me, for my favorite, my number 1 favorite is actually my pants, my Lane pants, because like I've mentioned several times at this point, I just feel like a good pair of elastic waistband pants with pockets, because my Lane pants have pockets, are just like a necessity. You have to have them. I have so many pairs of Lane pants. I wear them all the time, constantly. And also, like, the pattern comes with cargo pockets if you want them, but you don't have to have them. I'm just gonna stand up. So these are the Lane pants I'm wearing today, and they have like inseam pockets. Obviously, you need them. But there's a cargo pocket that is optional, and I obviously didn't put it on these ones because that's like not the vibe. But they're just like these ones sort of look like pajama pants, but they're also like Scandi pants. And then my favorite pair of Lane pants that I have are my black linen viscose blend Lane pants. And they're also no cargo pockets, just inseam pockets. But I wear them like 3 times a week. They go with everything. They're so comfortable, cute. Lane pants on top. All right, to build suspense, we're gonna do a quick fabric change. This is a quilting cotton that I got actually from Joann's, because I had this other fabric that I got from Blackbird, and I needed like a quilting cotton to go along with it for a project. So this is a perfect example of a time when I went to Joann's in a pinch just because I needed a quilting cotton really quick. Back to the rankings. Lane pants, number 1. Number 2 favorite is the tie top and dress pattern. It really is just fun and cute and like so versatile. You can make a top with it, you can make a dress, you can have sleeves, you can have no sleeves. I made a dupe video to like hack it into like a peplum top with like shorter sleeves. It's endless possibilities, and they're all so freaking cute. And then my 3rd favorite would have to be the Ruby vest, which makes it sound like I don't like it. That's not true. I just can't imagine putting the other 2 any lower than they are. In this case, it really is like ranking your children. But yeah, the Ruby vest is so fun. It's just like a fun make. You can do really cute, fun fabrics with it. It's like satisfying. There's like some skills in it with like the bias binding and the quilting aspect that are just like, you feel really cool when you do them. You know, you're like, dang, I just made a freaking quilted vest and I'm the coolest person ever. So love the Ruby vest. Okay, what cute tops are you wearing under the Ganni shirt in your videos? Okay, so this is like these tie tops that are like technically open, not technically, they're open down the center front. I do get this question a lot of what do you wear under them? So there are a lot of options. First of all, it is entirely preference. This is not like what you should wear under them. It's more just what I wear. Some people wear like a full-on t-shirt or tank top. Some people wear like nothing at all. They just go braless. That's fine too. For me, I wear bralettes because that's what I wear. Like, it's just my normal bras that I wear every day. I'm an A cup, pretty small chested, and so I hate like wire bras. I don't need the wires and they're uncomfortable. So I just wear bralettes. I have a ton of bralettes that are really, really comfortable. And so I don't really change up what I'm wearing under my shirt because I'm wearing this shirt. But this one that I'm wearing right now, I don't know if you can see. It's like a, this is so weird, but it's like a nude purple mauve-ish color that's a bralette. It's just like right there. And so I feel like you can see it. It's not like, I'm not trying to hide it, but it's also not the focus of anything. It's not like I'm wearing anything neon or whatnot. So yeah, you can wear whatever you want to wear under them. Totally personal preference. I just wear like a unassuming neutral bralette. We're getting to the end here. I'm not gonna finish all these. Pivot here, sharp turn. Tell us about your childhood and background. Also, how old are you? Okay, so I am almost 30. I'm gonna be 30 in a couple days actually, which is exciting. And I do get, if you follow me on TikTok, I have gotten comments a couple times when I mention that like I have kids, that sometimes people are surprised. I feel like that's probably not the majority. I think I have, like, people are like, oh, I thought you were like my age. I thought you were early 20s or whatever. And it's like, I'm not that far off. But I also think I just have like round features. And so, I don't know, I don't look super duper old yet. But I also don't think I look crazy younger than I am. So yeah, I'm almost 30. And childhood and background. Okay, so I grew up in Salt Lake City in Utah and lived there until I was 18, and then I moved out pretty soon after I graduated to Portland, which is where I met my husband, and we got married there and we had our first daughter there. Lived in Portland for a few years, and then we moved to Eugene, Oregon for school. We're there for a few years in school. We moved around a bit. And then after school, my husband got a job in Spokane, Washington. So we lived in Spokane for a few years. And then after that, a bit of a career change for my husband. During all this time, I started my business in Portland, actually. So I had my business in Portland, then moved it to Eugene, then moved it to Spokane. So I can, you know, I worked from home, I could do that wherever. And then my husband had a bit of a career change, and we moved to Utah again, which was surprising because I moved away from Utah. I always wanted to live somewhere else. I feel like there are a lot of good things about Utah, and but it just never felt like somewhere that, like, I always growing up, I just felt like I wasn't going to end up there. I don't know if anyone's had like a similar vibe or feeling from where they grew up, but I just always thought I'd be somewhere else. It felt like I wasn't going to live there forever. So I moved to Portland for that purpose. And I was very surprised that we moved back. It just ended up like working out with my husband's job. But yeah, so we lived in Salt Lake for a couple years. That was where I stopped my business that I had been doing. I shut that down, and I was doing a couple things, but mainly like marketing and social media stuff in like the corporate world there. And then we moved back to Eugene like last year. Gosh, is that 2 years ago? So Eugene is where we live now. It's my favorite place of all the places we've lived. I really like Oregon. I feel like Eugene's the right size for me too, because like Portland's great and I really like the city vibes, and like there's definitely like a city in Eugene too. It's not like we're in the middle of nowhere, but it's a good size because it's not like crazy busy. There's not really like traffic or I don't know, the negative things that come with like really big places, but it's also not like super tiny. Like we have grocery stores and like, you know, all the normal stuff too. So I really, really like Eugene. Plus there's a lot of great hiking spots. I hike a lot, and I feel like I live in a very lucky place where there's like a lot of different options to hike, and it's also like my favorite weather in the world, which is like misty and rainy and wet. It's like the best thing ever. So love it here. That's kind of my background in a very condensed version. But yeah, I guess my professional background, I started my own business when I was really young. I was 20. No, I just turned 21 when I started my business. And so I did that for 5 years, took a little bit of a break, got some more, like I was doing social media stuff in my business, like heavily small business social media. And then I was doing some like marketing, admin, and social media stuff in my space between my shop and what I do now. And then I went full-time pattern making and this stuff just like a couple months ago. So that's my like professional background and a little bit about me personally. Okay, fabric switch. This one, like I had mentioned, is a crinkle cotton from Blackbird. They have a really awesome crinkle cottons, and they're like pretty thin, but they're not like see-through really. Let me see if I can show you. See, like it's not super see-through, but they are like quite thin, and they have like that crinkly texture to them. So I feel like it would make a really pretty like dress or top or something like that. I originally got it to make a quilted tote from, and I just haven't gotten there yet. Last few questions. Been dying to know how you balance mom and work life. I need tips. Okay, this is gonna be bleak. Maybe not bleak, but it's not like the most optimistic. I don't have the most optimistic view. But yeah, I am a mom. I have 2 kids. I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old. So they're getting a bit old and independent. And I'm lucky that my oldest especially is very independent. And so like she was a baby and a toddler and growing up when I was like in the thick of my pine and honey business days. And so I think she got very used to doing things on her own. That's like her personality too. She kind of like does her thing and lets me do what I need to do. My son is not as much that way. My 5-year-old, he's a little bit more attention. He wants more attention, but he has an older sister, so they can play / fight together. But as far as like work-life balance, I feel like I maybe will more talk toward like speak to my younger mom days when I had kids at home all the time, because right now they're both full-time in school, which is like has changed my life. It's been amazing. Love them. But yeah, when they were younger and they were home all the time, pretty much the only way I could deal with it, because we didn't have like childcare for most of the time. When I was doing like social media corporate stuff, I did have childcare for my youngest, but like when I was working from home and we were doing my business, they were home with me and we didn't have any sort of childcare because it wasn't in the budget. And so I really just had to work when I could, try to get things done when I could, and when I couldn't, I would just stay up really late and work. And I think it's kind of a toxic combination for me personally, because I'm the type of person who, I'm a night person, and I just generally, like even now, if I don't get things done during the day, I'm like, oh, well, like when my kids go to bed, I have hours where I can work, right? When you're like supposed to be sleeping, but I would just feel like, look at all this time I have to get things done. And so I definitely dig myself in a hole with that a lot. I've gotten better at it recently. But yeah, I just think when you're a mom, especially like a stay-at-home mom or work from home mom, and you have all of these things on your plate, when you have work on your plate and kid stuff and home stuff, and just like you're doing all the things, like something's got to give, like something's gonna suffer. And for me, it was always sleep. That's like what I would sacrifice. So I feel like I said, this is very bleak. I feel like I don't have a lot of tips on how to make it better. You can utilize that nighttime, sleep time area or nap times or whatever, but more than anything, just give yourself grace and like understand that you're not going to do it all, and that's okay. But also take care of yourself. And also it's going to be over soon, because like at the time, I mean, it was years of my life, right, where it was very difficult. And now in my life, I look back at it and I'm like, oh, that was a rough time, but it's over now. So it's hard to just tell people, oh, it'll pass, because that's like so annoying when people say that. But yeah, things just change quickly with kids, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And also I love my kids, and that makes it sound like they're like a problem, and that's not how I feel, but I think you get what I'm saying. Okay, new fabric. This one is from Fluid Plus Drape that I got locally, but she sells online, and she has a whole collection. This is like from her Daisies collection. She has this in like tons and tons of colors, but I know they also sell out really quickly. Like she's restocked multiple times. But it's like I'll show you the back of it. It's a woven fabric, and so these daisies are actually like embroidered into the fabric. They're really, really pretty. So anyways, the manufacturer of this fabric is Fabulism. So I know there's like different fabric shops that carry Fabulism, but Fluid Plus Drape is where I got mine, and she has tons of them. So then question after that, where do you see yourself in your career in 5 years? Oh gosh, this one is hard to answer because I feel like all of my career moves have been out of the blue, sort of. Like I didn't see myself in any of the jobs that I have ever had before I like actually had them. It's not like I chose a career when I was young and then went to school for that thing and then do that thing now. And I think that that probably is more common than we think. I know I was like raised very much to have that mindset of like, hey, what do you want to do? Then go to college for it. Then not that you like can't change, but like that's like an appropriate path, right, of figuring out a career. So anyway, as far as where I see my life going in 5 years, I feel like it's really hard to say because I've never had a plan. I do think though, I really, really like what I do, and I've done the made to order thing with the kids' clothes that I used to make, and even though I loved that, I really did love so many elements of that. I loved the creativity of it, the hands-on like making of the things, even like the social media and the marketing stuff of that. Like I really love that side of things as well. So I feel like that was something I really loved, but I just got burnt out, and anybody would get burnt out from doing all of that work constantly on your own. It's just like too much. So I feel like what I'm doing now with pattern making and like social stuff and whatever, I feel like I've found something that I really like to do and that I think suits my like skills well. So I would like to keep doing what I'm doing. And the nice thing also about pattern making is that yes, it's like a big lift and a lot of effort to get a pattern made, draft a new pattern, and like do all the instructions and the illustrations and the testing, and like it's a big project, a big thing to do, and it's a lot of work. But then once it's done, you can kind of be like, ah, and then move on to the next thing, and then that pattern passively makes you income for hopefully forever until people get bored of me. In 5 years, hopefully I'll still be doing patterns, but also making at least some money from the patterns that I have been making. But I also think there will be times in my life and in anyone's life, I think it's very natural to kind of go through phases of like how much you want to be like going full force at something, and then times when you kind of want to sit back, which I think is where I was when I closed my shop down. Is like I had been full speed ahead for 5 years, and it was like in my mind I thought that that's how it would be forever, and or that that's how it should be forever. It was actually my husband who sort of pulled me out of that and like gave me a figurative shake of the shoulders, like, you need to stop, like you're driving yourself crazy. And so I think I've sort of learned my lesson in that sense, and I would hope that I'm setting myself up now to be able to, if I ever needed to take a step back and like take things more slowly, or like just adjust and shift my plan of things that I want to do, that I think I'll be in a good place to kind of like change my mind and shift. I feel like right now I've been at this sort of career path for a long time, even though the exact thing I'm doing right now has only been like a bit of a blip. But my career goals in the next 5 years are to be in a place where I don't feel like I need to be so full force and working all the time. Okay, we're almost to the end. This one is a quilting cotton that I got from Modern Domestic, I'm pretty sure. And this is also Ruby Star Society. Surprise! They're clearly my favorite fabric manufacturer. Where do you shop when you buy your clothes? Okay, let's see. I wish I had some like really awesome, cool brands to tell everybody about. I haven't shopped a ton for clothes recently. I feel like I get a lot of basic stuff from Madewell, like sweaters and things like that. I got a few sweaters this fall from Madewell. And then I also wear a lot of like activewear slash like hiking stuff, because especially in the summer when it's hot, I feel like I hike in the evenings and then I like wear my hiking stuff most of the day until I go on a hike later that day. And so I have a lot of stuff from Lululemon, has really nice hiking stuff actually, like joggers and tank tops and whatnot. And I also have actually really liked some of the like basic activewear stuff from Target. I got like a skirt from them last year that's just like a active skirt, and I love it. I would wear it every day. It's so cute. Maybe I should dip my toes into activewear sewing. I've never done that, but who knows? Maybe I could try it. Also, for activewear stuff, I know that's like not my vibe and probably not the kind of recommendations you're asking for, but Outdoor Voices is a brand that I also super love. They have exercise dresses that in the summer especially, I wear exercise dresses as much as possible because I hate pants and I also like activewear. And so they're like kind of cute and you can wear them to the store but also on a hike, and they're just the best. Oh, also, this isn't really clothes. These are like such random brands that I love, but I got these shoes a few months ago from Garden Air, which is, they are like a gardening company. I'm pretty sure they sell like gardening supplies and stuff, but they also have some shoes that like you could garden in them or you could just wear them to be a cute person. But I got these like plastic, they're not plastic, are they plastic? I don't know. They're like waterproof clogs and I'm obsessed with them. I wear them all the time. I need to go find them. I also got some jellies from them, like some like brown sandal jellies. They're really cute. So that's like a shoe recommendation. I feel like I want to be like a sneaker person and I've just never really found any that I love. But I love clogs. I wear clogs all the time and I wear jellies as much as I can and like Birkenstocks and whatever. I really do feel like at this point, I do sew most of my clothes. Like I keep saying in the summer, but I feel like the summer's coming up, so I'm thinking about clothes there most often. But like in the summer, I wear a lot of dresses. I keep coming back to it, but like whenever I can not wear pants, that's great. So I wear a lot of dresses in the summer and almost all of the dresses I wear are ones that I've made. And then during the winter, I wear my Lane pants just like on repeat because I have so many pairs of them. And then like sweaters, like I said, sweaters I get from Madewell, and that pretty much covers all the things I wear. Can you do a video tutorial on the Zadie jumpsuit? So that's a pattern from Paper Theory that I actually do have. That's one of the only patterns that I actually own is the Zadie jumpsuit. It's a really cute pattern. So actually a question for you guys about this, because I've done tutorials for my own patterns and I've done one tutorial for another company's pattern, which was the Bestie bag from Blackbird. And I actually reached out to them about that because I had made the Bestie bag, I had made the Bestie bag and there wasn't a video tutorial for it, which was fine. Like I could 100% figure out how to make it without a tutorial, but I know from experience that it is very helpful to have that as an option. And since I had made a couple of my own, I reached out to them and asked if they wanted me to make a video tutorial for them. And I wanted to check with them first because since it's not my pattern, I wanted to like, I don't know, that seemed like an appropriate thing to do. I don't know. If they had any weird feelings about me doing it without asking them, I just wanted to like, I don't know, check in with them first. They said yes, and I made a tutorial for their pattern. But for other people's patterns, like the Zadie jumpsuit, I haven't actually looked, but I don't know if there are any existing tutorials. If Paper Theory has already made a tutorial, I wouldn't want to like step on any toes. I would probably like, if there was a lot of interest, if people really wanted a tutorial for that from me, I would reach out to Paper Theory first before making it. But if there are any patterns like that, like the Zadie jumpsuit or the Bestie bag or whatever, that do not already have an existing tutorial, I am more than happy to do them. Let me know if there, like maybe in the comments, let me know if there are patterns that come to mind that fall into that boat. And if there's enough interest, I'll reach out to the companies and see if they'd be interested in me doing one, or if they'd be okay with it. Okay, we're almost done. So this one is a gingham shirting fabric, and this one is from the fabric store. They have really great like shirtings, stripes, linens, things like that. I feel like when I think of the fabric store, I think of those types of fabrics. So I got a bunch of ginghams from them a few months ago. This was one of them. I've sort of been hoarding it. I'm not sure what I wanted to use for it. So patchwork squares sounds great. All right, and the question, we only have 2 questions left. Can I buy a vest? I can't sew. And then a follow-up, do you sell your dresses? Okay, I only do patterns right now, and I don't take commission work. I do get that question every once in a while because I totally get it. If you don't sew at all, but you like the look of the things I'm making, natural question, wanting to buy it. I don't do commissions or like sell the things that I make because it's not something that I want to be putting my time and energy into right now. Pattern making is where I want to focus, and I completely understand, like I've had people be like, well, like why don't you sell this? Like there's enough interest. Why wouldn't you want to make that much? Like why wouldn't you want that extra revenue of the things you sell, or to like make things like that? Doesn't make any sense. And like I get that mindset, but I don't think you understand like how long it takes to make these things. Like if I were to make a dress, like one of my like tie dresses, for example, if I were to sell those, I could make like 1 to 2 a day, right? And so if I had like 20 orders for those dresses, yeah, like I'd make money off them, but then that's like 15 days maybe that 15 work days that I am just making those dresses. I haven't answered any of your DMs, I haven't done emails, I haven't done any pattern making for like future patterns. It does suck so much time out of my workday, and it's ultimately like just not getting me, like it's not furthering my current goals to make physical products. So I get why people are asking for commission work, but it's just not something that I want to put energy into right now. On that note, I did do a sample sale last week where I sold a bunch of samples that I had made. Like when I was drafting this pattern, I have to make tons of them while I'm in the drafting process to like tweak things, and then I end up with like, I think I had like 11 shirts and dresses. It's like I love all of them, but I'm not gonna wear all of them because it's just so many of the same thing. So in those situations, I have like sold those samples. Obviously they're all in like my size because they were samples I made for me in the drafting process, and I will have to continue doing those because I'm gonna keep drafting patterns. But I would say I'll do a sample sale every like, I don't know, maybe like 3 times a year, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. I'll do a purge and sell all my samples, but that's as close as I'm gonna get to any sort of physical product selling. I'll post about those on my Instagram stories if you're like wanting to keep an eye out for when that's gonna happen. But like I said, it's pretty rare, so that's the best I can do. Okay, last question. What are some new projects that you're excited about? Also would love some non-clothing ideas. Okay, so I'll give you like a brief rundown of the projects I have in mind to do next. Very next, I'm going to be making a skirt pattern. So I made a skirt last summer, and it's just like a pretty basic white skirt. It has a tier in it, and I made a tutorial of it on TikTok actually. So if you're wanting to make that exact skirt, you can go find that TikTok tutorial. But I did not, like I knew I'd like it, the skirt, but I did not expect like how often I would wear it and how much of a staple it has become. In fact, edit that first response of like what are some closet staples. I feel like a long midi skirt is a staple, or at least it has become a staple in my closet, and it's really simple to make. I wear that skirt all the freaking time. I wear it in the summer a lot, but also I wear it in the winter a ton. Like that long skirt with like a sweater every day. My favorite outfit. The intention behind that pattern is to make something that's very beginner friendly. All 3 of my other patterns right now are rated confident beginner, which basically means like it's beginner friendly and you can make it if you're like a beginner to sewing. You just might need like a little extra confidence, or like if you've literally never sewn anything ever, it might be a little bit adventurous, but like you could do it. It's just a level of confidence. So all my patterns right now are confident beginner, but I wanted to make one that is like beginner, like truly this could be anybody's first project and you'll be fine. So I'm gonna do a skirt. It's not going to be exactly like the one that I made last summer. I'm playing around with design ideas. I'm hoping to maybe have official details on the launch of that in the next month or so. So stay tuned on that, but I'm going to be doing a skirt pattern next. Quick fabric change. This one is also a quilting cotton, also from Modern Domestic, and I'm pretty sure the manufacturer is Andover. Yes, Andover. I made a ruby vest with this one, and so I think I have the link for it. I'll put it down below. Okay, after the skirt pattern, I have a dress that I'm going to make. Another dress that I had drafted for myself last summer that I wore a lot, and it's like a really good basic like sundress design, which I love a good sundress. And it has like this tie detail on the back that makes it adjustable, and it's just like a cute, fun extra thing. So skirt first, then the dress, and the dress won't be like an exact version again of the dress that I made last summer. I have some edits I'm going to make to it, but it's like the general design vibe is like a simple, flowy, fun sundress. Okay, after that, things are murkier. Those two feel pretty firm, but I want to do a bag pattern at some point. I've made a lot of other people's bags, and I have loved the patterns that I've done of those, but I would like to make my own bag pattern. I just don't know, like I don't have any firm ideas of what the design would be. So that's kind of been holding me up. I actually was going to do a bag next, but I just feel like I have a pretty firm idea on the skirt and a firm idea on the dress, and so I'm moving ahead with those. And then once I'm hoping to kind of get some divine inspiration for the bag in the meantime, and then I'll do one of those. But yeah, that's kind of like pattern ideas that are like teed up next. I feel like I have a ton of ideas that are like in the very baby stages, that I don't even know if I could like give any sort of description of what they would be. For non-clothing ideas, I think I'll probably be making some YouTube tutorials for like beginner projects. Like if you are just learning how to sew and want to like practice on something, like we talked about, Kindle cases, laptop cases. There's like those cute like makeup bag type things that you can make that are really easy. Things like that. I'm planning to do YouTube tutorials for. I have so many things I want to do, so I have no idea when that would happen. And then other just like new projects in the works in my life. I'll give you guys a little bit of a teaser. If you saw my TikTok about my office space, my office tour, I work right now out of a really small, it's like a workshop area off of my garage that we remodeled to be my office when I was doing social media work remotely for a company. So it worked great for just like office work, and it still works fine for what I do, but you might be able to tell I can't cut any of my fabric or iron anything in that room because it's too small. It's literally, I think it's 5 by 7. So it's just teeny tiny. And so I have to work between two spaces. I have like my sewing machines are in there, my computer's in there, my fabric like storage is in there, my supplies are there. But then anytime I have to cut anything or film anything or iron anything, I have to go back and forth between the two spaces. Something that I have had in the works and has been a dream of mine for a while is to get another office space. And I'm not going to tell you what it is yet because it's like so exciting, but that is going to begin. That process is going to get started officially in like a couple weeks. So stay tuned. I'll for sure be posting about it a lot on TikTok. I'm not exactly sure how much I'll be putting on YouTube yet, but new office space is happening and it's gonna be, you guys aren't ready. It's so exciting. Okay, that is all the questions, and I've been talking to you guys for so freaking long. We'll see how long I can edit it down to, but I was worried this would be like 15 minutes, but just kidding. I actually talked forever and surprised no one. I have one fabric left, which I'm going to cut. This one is also Ruby Star Society, you guys. But yeah, this one's really cute. I also got this one from Modern Domestic. I got a bunch of quilting cottons there for patchwork type stuff. I think I was gonna make some like ruby vests with all these different quilting fabrics, and maybe one day I'll get around to it. Thanks for chatting with me. This was actually very nice. I feel like it went quickly for me, that I was able to like talk to you guys instead of just cut fabric for hours. Maybe we'll do it again sometime. If so, let me know what questions I missed. And yeah, this description is gonna be so long. There's so many things I need to link, but it will all be below. Love you guys.